and grab 20 of your Delicas, 11 Delicas, and put it on your thread, the long part. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a circle, and we're just going to wrap our thread around and go through those first 3 Delicas that we put on initially. Alright, so let me just get a little closer for this. There we go. So we're going to just add our first 3 Delicas, okay? So go ahead, go through that, and then just slide that down close to your stop bead, okay? Now when I'm adding my beads, just a quick refresher, we've done quite a few bezels. It's gonna peyote bezels. It's gonna be the same thing. So we come out of one bead, we pick up a bead, skip the next bead, and go through the following bead. So the bead that we picked up always sits on top of the bead that we just skipped, okay? So let's go ahead and get started with that. So I'm coming out of here, I'm picking up a Delica, and then I am going through the next Delica. I'm just gonna hold everything in place so my bead then goes to the correct spot, and I want to make sure that it's sitting side by side. Alright, so let's go ahead and do that. Whoops, for the next one. Of course I would drop. So I'm coming out of here, skipping this one, but I'm picking up a bead that will sit right on top and going through the following. So let me just hold it in place. There we go. Whoops. So it looks like that. And then they just sit side by side. Let's do it one more time, and then I'll let you go to finish up. Alright, so I'm coming out of here. I'm skipping this one, but I'm picking up a bead to sit right next to it, and then I'm going to go through the following bead like that. And I'm just holding everything in place so that way when it goes in place. And if it doesn't, not the end of the world, go ahead and adjust it and make sure that it is. And what I like to do with this particular project is I will, when I'm doing my first round, okay, I do keep it flat, okay, and then when we go to do our step up, that's when I shape it. So meet me back here, okay, and what we'll do is we'll put on the last one together, the last one for this round, and then we'll do our step up together, okay? So meet me back here when you have the last one to put on, and we'll do the last bead and then the step up. Alright, so we just have one more to put on. So I am coming out of here, this bead here, skipping this bead and putting on a bead to sit on top of that and going through here. And because I'm going to do a step up, I'm then going to go through that very first bead that we put on for this round. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that all at once, like this. And there we go. Now we need to shape this and then go ahead and put on our next round. So let's go ahead. I recommend grabbing like a big pen and then meeting me back here. Alright, so I have a pen here, just a basic pen. It's not a big pen, but it's a pen. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pick up my flat disc, and I'm just going to gently put it onto my pen, the very tip, and I'm just going to use that to shape this into a round. There we go. There we go. Just to get started. And sometimes when you're working with a small bezel like this, it helps to keep this on the bezel while we start off our first round. It's not required, but it does help a little bit, just because it doesn't fit as well on my finger. For you it might be different, just feel how it feels for you. Okay, so if we look at this, our thread is coming out of here. Okay, and at this point we are actually going to switch over to our 15s. Alright, so we are now switching over to our 15s, and I'm going to do something a little different, and I am going to use 15 Delicas for this next round. And then for the second round of 15s, I'm going to do 15 rounds. And here's what I recommend is that for this bezel, because it's so small, if you're using Delicas, use it for your first round and then the round 15-0s for the second. Otherwise, I recommend using for both rounds the round ones. There isn't as much space, and the Delicas are just slightly bigger than the 15 rounds. Okay, just a recommendation. Alright, so I'm coming out of here. Let me come here. So I'm coming out of here. Let me get a little closer. There. I'm coming out of here. I'm picking up a 15. It's going to sit in this notch, and then I'm going to go through here. There we go. There we go. My thread went underneath my pen. Whoops. There we go. Not the end of the world. Just annoying. Alright, so let's get back into camera frame. Do a nice gentle tug, and things will straighten out as we go along. Of course, it didn't help that I had to just, pick it up and move things. Alright, so now I'm, whoops. I can't hold things. It works better with a big pen for me. I don't know why. Probably just, it's all in the head. Alright, so now I'm coming out of here. I'm going to pick up a 15. It's going to sit here, and I'm going to go through there. And I know things look a little wonky at the moment, and it's just because it's slipped on and off my pen. But as I'm doing this, it will strain out. There we go. Do a little tug. There we go. So things are sitting nicely. I'm actually just going to take this off because this pen isn't easy to hold on to. Alright, so now I'm coming out of here, and then I'm going to go through the next one. So, picking up a 15 to sit in the notch, going into the next bead that's sticking out, holding the bead into place so it sits nicely. Do a gentle tug, and voila. So go ahead and finish up this round. Meet me back here. We'll put on the last bead together, and then we'll do our step up, okay? Alright, now we're ready to put on our last bead. So I'm coming out of here. I'm going to put on my 15-0, and it's going to sit in the notch. I'm going to go through the beads sticking out for the 11-0, and then for this step up, I'm just going to go through that first bead that I went through previously. So I'm going through here. There we go. And I want to make sure for the step up, I'm going through that bead that we just put on. And that will let us do the next round. Alright, so what I'm going to do, because I did the 15-0 Delicas, just so things sit a little nicer, I'm switching to the 15-0 rounds, okay? So meet me back here, and we'll get started with the second round. Alright, just like we did before, I'm coming out of here. I'm going to pick up my 15-0 round, skip this bead, and set it on top of that, and then go through the next bead. So let's go ahead and do that. There we go. And And then we just want to make sure we position everything, do a gentle tug, and then move on to the next. Coming out of here, picking up a 15-0, setting it on here, and then going through the sticking out. There we go. And let's just make sure the bead's sitting in the center. Do a little adjustment and do a little tug. And then you just keep going all the way around. And then when you're done, even though we're not going to be adding another row, go ahead and do a step up. And then meet me back here and we'll get started on the back, okay? Alright, so we are going to do the exact same thing. The only difference is we are going to be adding our stone in this process. So what I like to do with the smaller ones, and I do things a little differently depending on the size and so forth, but I like to get at least a few of the Delicas on, of the 15-0s on first before putting my stone in. So I maneuver myself to coming out to the one of the sticking outs. I am going to skip this one and put a 15-0 to sit on top and then go through this one, just like we did the front. I'm going to do like about 4 or 5, and then I'm going to pop my stone in, hold it in place, and then go all the way around, okay? So let's go ahead and do that together. Do a little tug. And then I'm just going to do the same thing for the next one. It's just like we did for the front. I'm just using the tail here for the back. So if we look at this, it's exactly the same thing. And I want to make sure I do a little tug so that way it tightens. Let's go ahead and do one more and then pop our stone in. How does that sound? There we go. So now I'm going to bring my stone over. Just going to let her sit there as gently as possible. And then I'll just hold her in place and position her as I do it. And when you're putting on the second round, it'll just tighten before you finish the second round, so you don't have to hold on to it. There we go. And we're still doing the first round of 15-0s. There we go. We might as well go ahead and finish this because we're almost done. And we'll do the step up together and switch. There we go. So I'm coming through here. I picked up my 15-0 and I'm gonna go through that first 15-0 that I just added for the step up. Just like we did with the front. There we go. Now, because I did switch over to the rounds, I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. Alright, so I'm coming out of here. Whoops. Let's make sure I'm in the frame. So I'm coming out of here, picking up a 15-0 round, and going through the next 15-0 sticking out. There we go. So just like that. And it does kind of, you want to make sure it sits in there correctly. Sometimes if the string gets a little tied, I like to pull it out just gently and then just reposition it and use your finger. Alright, so let's go ahead and do the next one. So just like that. Hold it in place. And then go ahead and finish up, and don't forget to do a step up. So go through this first one after you've gone all the way around, even though we're not going to be putting on a third row, okay? And then meet me back here. We'll do our reinforcement, okay? Alright, now for the reinforcement of the back here. And what we're going to do is, right now I am coming out of this one right here, and that was the first one I added. And I like to do this with one or two of the round 15-0s. Is I'll actually go coming out of here, I'll then go through the 11-0 that's sticking out, and then I'll go back through that same 15-0. There we go. And it just kind of anchors. And then for the remaining, and I'll just do that for like one or two. I don't do too many, especially on these small ones. On the larger ones, I might do a couple of more, but on the small ones, just one or two. And I'll go around just by holding it, reinforcing. Let me do that again. I think I went out of camera frame. So I'm coming out of the round 15-0. I'm going to go through the 15-0 Delica and the next 15-0 round. There we go. Just holding it like that. And I just do that all the way around. Okay? So do that for for both the back and the front. And then meet me back here. And what we'll do with both sides of our thread is we'll reinforce the very center, okay, weaving in and out. Okay, once you've reinforced the front and the back, what you want to do is come to the center here and weave your way around. And what I like to do with my center of my spine is I like to go through, and you want to do this with both your tail and your front end, because you need to do this several times and then you can end your thread. What I like to do is, you see the Delicas, the 11-0 Delicas that are side by side, and then you see the center, is what I like to do is I like to go through one of the two beads that are side by side, then go, so like for example, I'll go through here, pull forward my thread, then I like to come through the opposite side and then go back through the two beads side by side. And then for this very 11-0 Delica by itself in the center, I just go forward. And then I just repeat, so I got the two side by side, so I'm going to go through one side and then back through the other side. Make sure my thread doesn't get caught. And then back through that first side. And then in the very center, just go forward. And I'll do this halfway around with one thread, and then halfway around the other side with the other thread, and then alright, so now that we finished reinforce all of our stitches, since I used my tail to interweave the spine and I'm done reinforcing my bezel. I went in ahead and burned off my tail. But I am using, because I have plenty of thread, I am using my front thread for my stitch in the ditch. So what you want to do is maneuver your way to one of the 11-ohs that is 2 by 2. All right. And on this, just like our Isabel bezel, we are going to be doing our stitch in the ditch at the very top. One thing that is kind of nice about this particular bezel is that you do have an even count. So we initially started off with 20, we ended up with 10. So we will have 10 stitches in the ditch. All right, so let's go ahead. Whoops. Don't want to do that just yet. So I'm coming out of this bead here. I'm going to go ahead and pick up a 11-oh Delica. There we go. And I'm just going to go through that same one again. All right. And then I like to reinforce, and then once I'm done with reinforcing, I then go through and weave, and I generally go through the 11-ohs just because you tend to have a little bit more room in them. So I'm going down the central spine, and then I'm coming up to the next 11-oh that I'm going to do my stitch in the ditch. Whoops. Let me redo that since I was out of sight there. So I'm coming out of this 11-oh, this 2 by 2 right here. I'm going to, I pick up 11-oh, so it's going to sit on top. There we go, just like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and reinforce that. And then I'm just going to go ahead and let me just show you what I'm doing is I'm going to go ahead and weave through till I get to my next bead that I'm going to do the stitch in the ditch, which will be the next top one where there's 2 beads, 2 11-oh Delicas sitting next to each other. So I'm now coming out of here. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up another 11-oh and go through that 11-oh Delica. So you just repeat this all the way around, and you should have a total of 10 stitches in the ditch, okay? So go ahead, do that, and then meet me back here. Alright, so now we are going to finish up with our final bezel, and this is the star. So basically what we're doing with this particular bezel is we are taking the sun and turning that into the star. And what we're going to do is in between each of these spaces where we have the stitch in the ditch, we're just going to go ahead and add crystal. So I'm just going to go ahead, coming out of this stitch in the ditch, going through the next stitch in the ditch. Let me get a little closer. There we go. I want to make sure it lies correctly. Sometimes if the thread isn't quite right, it will kind of stick out. And what I like to do when that happens is pull the stone out just a little bit and then just do a nice gentle tug. Alright, so I'm just going to do that one more time. I don't know if I was out of camera, so let me do that again. So I'm coming out of here, and I'm just going in here. Beautiful. So do that all the way around, and once you've completed that, what I would do is go around one more time. You have a total of 10 crystals, so you can count. And then once you've gone around a second time, go ahead and do, I would say, you know, three half knots here. And then now if this is going to be for one of your other projects that we're doing for the Francesca, like the necklace that I have here or so forth, go ahead and end your thread. If you're using this for the ear wire and you want to turn it into a pendant or an earring, meet me back here and we'll do that together. Alright, so now we're ready to add our ear wire. For those of you who want to make this into an earring or into a pendant, and what we're going to do, and this is for the star, is we are going to come out of the very center spine on your bezel, on your peyote bezel. So you're going to be coming in behind one of the crystals, and you're going to come out of one of the 11-0 Delicas, okay? And so I'm coming out of this 11-0 Delica, and as you can see on our spine of our peyote stitch, you have this section where it's 2 11-0s, then 1, and then 2. You're going to come out of the section where there's just 1. Alright? And so go ahead, pick up a 15-0, your ear wire, and another 15-0. I'm coming out of this side of my 11-0, so I'm going to go ahead and go through the opposite side. So you're just basically creating a right angle weave when you do this. And then again, make sure, a couple things to remember about the ear wire. You have this little open section. Whoops. You have this little open section, so make sure the thread remains there. If not, just quickly pick it up, tug, and make sure it falls into place. Make sure your beads are sitting correctly on your piece. And then go ahead and reinforce that. And since you have an embellishment here, go back through your embellishment and do a couple of half knots. And then go ahead and add your Fireline. And you can, go ahead and add your ear hook directly to this ear wire. If you're doing a pendant, you could do a jump ring, and you're all set. Thank you guys. Looking forward to seeing some of those photos. Thank you for all the kind words and the emails that you've been sending. A lot of you have been sending me messages through Facebook, so thank you. I really, truly appreciate it. This video recording isn't easy for me. I'm getting better. Still need some work, but I'm getting there. And I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's been so kind and so gracious. I greatly appreciate it. Take care.